All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA DFS video. We have a 4-game slate today on Friday for the DraftKings main slate. Let's go ahead and break it down. So let's start out here with the Cleveland versus Philly game because we are getting some, I would say, value here for Cleveland guys. Darius Garland's out, Max Strus is out, Sam Merrill is out, and we also have Dean Wade ruled out. So that should get some of these bench players some minutes here for Cleveland. The issue is which players are going to get the minutes and how many minutes will they end up getting. Will Craig Porter Jr. get an increase in run here, guys? Potentially. You know, if he gets 25 minutes or so, we'd like him. Lonzo Ball, someone that, you know, again, if he gets 20 minutes, he'd be pretty appealing at that cheap price tag, especially on a 4-game slate. Jalen Tyson, to me, is kind of the easy value click. Just how much of a ceiling does he have? Is he going to be someone that can win us a GPP if we select him? I don't really think so. I don't think he presents that sort of upside. Then we also have DeAndre Hunter, who kind of falls in line there with Tyson. I would say he's a little bit more appealing, but at the same time, I think he's limited in terms of the upside that he presents. Evan Mobley is priced up, honestly, probably too much now. And then Jared Allen's probably the one we want to get to the most. He slightly benefits with Garland, with Dean Wade, with Merle, and Strus off the court, points-wise. But he's, I mean, how much of a ceiling? He has a ceiling, don't get me wrong. He could easily go for 40+ at this price tag and go off, and I don't mind chasing that. At the same time, we just saw him play in this matchup earlier, and it was a blowout, don't get me wrong there. And maybe if he does end up getting a 33 or so minutes, maybe we get like him with the double-double. I don't like him, or I don't mind him, but he's like the one play that I want to get to the most here for Cleveland. I just wish we were getting like clear-cut plays for them. And so if we take a peek at the data, guys, it is also kind of telling us basically exactly what I just told you guys. Like, they're all fine plays, just unfortunately not as great of plays. And then for Philly, it's actually going to be the exact same, guys. Maybe you could get to Embiid a little bit. Paul George is always going to be somewhat in play, you know, price at a cheaper price tag, but nothing as good as we really would have wanted. And then let's take a peek at the Pelicans versus Indiana game. I think this one's a little bit more appealing. A pretty high scoring game. It's also only a 3.5 point spread. We see, you know, maybe some of these Pacers plays are somewhat appealing, but I think we're going to be looking at the Pelicans a little bit more, even though they are healthy. And we look at the data, guys, it is telling us Zion's a little bit too cheap, but not a 5x play. I actually like the idea of continuing to kind of ride with Trey Murphy. I think he's going to be a solid play for us overall. I don't mind the idea of like getting into a little bit of Bey, Yusuf. I think they're all kind of fine there, guys, but I think the play I would want to get to the most to me is actually Trey Murphy. I think he has a pretty high ceiling today, and it's a good game total. I mean, if you want to get to Zion as well, you certainly can do so, but we definitely want to begin to pieces of this game, especially on this small 4-game slate. We go and take a peek at the Pacers plays. The only one that's popping up somewhat is Andrew Nembhard, and I don't know. I'm a little bit hesitant to get to him. I don't know about you guys, but that concerns me a decent amount. The interesting play is like Johnny Furphy, only projected for 14 minutes, but still he's like a 4.5x value type of play. And if he ends up getting more run than that, he could be someone that is pretty valuable today. And he has been someone that has gotten a decent amount of run recently. And so I'm kind of fine just chasing that production for him on this small 4-game slate. I think that's something that we need to do. And yes, if this game does end up being a close game and a higher scoring game, I do think Andrew Nembhard is going to be in play. And again, I do want to begin to pieces of this. And so I don't mind the idea of getting to shooting guard only Trey Murphy. You could argue he's a little bit too low price given the ceiling that he has in some of these games that he's going to have to get more than 30+ minutes. And so I really like him for his ceiling as well. And then again, Zion is somewhat popping. I don't know if we necessarily need to get to him. He probably is a tiny bit too cheap given the ceiling that he has. And then from there, like Queen is very much hit or miss. I don't mind him. If you're not playing him, I do like the idea of getting to Yusuf instead. I think, you know, getting to one of those two to me makes a bunch of sense. And maybe you make 2 builds, one with their Queen. He obviously was just struggling in his last game, guys, so the minutes weren't exactly there for him. They went with Yusuf instead, but that being said, he does hold a pretty solid upside. And so maybe we get to Yusuf for now, but really both of them, again, are firmly in play. And then I don't mind Bey. If he gets 30+ minutes, he probably would end up being a little bit too cheap. And then let's jump on into the Chicago versus Brooklyn game. 2-point spread, 226 game total. I mean, not terrible. Okay. We know that Giddey is still out. Zach Collins is still out. Horther is actually probable, guys. If he were to sit, I do think that would make some of the other Bulls players a little bit more intriguing. The Nets are pretty healthy, though, so kind of an interesting game here. Now we take a peek at the players that are the best value, and I kind of disagree. I kind of think AO could end up continuing to play well, guys. The lines have been kind of wrong on him recently, although he's at 5.6. I mean, probably a correct price take for him on this slate. But given the fact that's a 4-game slate, I don't mind the idea of chasing his upside. But that's kind of everyone here for the Bulls. Like, we could get 2 pieces of the Bulls. Vooch has been someone that's been going off, relatively speaking. But then you have Kobe White, Modest, Trey Jones. Like, someone here is going to end up having a decent game here as well. And so, like, Vooch, I could easily see going for 40 plus here tonight, guys. So I don't mind him. You got Modest there, who, you know, has been a little bit hit or miss, but he's been someone that will have a decent ceiling here or there. Kobe White has been a little bit more productive recently, but I don't know how much we can trust him. Trey Jones, you know, he's had some, you know, a couple of decent ceiling games. Like, if we get 30 plus DFS points out of him at this price tag, obviously we like that. AO has been someone that has just been clearly mispriced. I think he's still mispriced. Had one bad game, guys, recently, and maybe we can't trust the mints to be there. That seemed pretty random to me. Like, he went 3 for 8. I didn't catch like why he only got 23 minutes, but I think we're fine riding the hot hand with him. If it doesn't work out, I'm okay, like fine. Jalen Smith to me is also a little bit too cheap, guys. Like, I don't think Vegas, which is where the projections are coming in from, is really adjusting for his role and his productivity. Like, 17 minutes, guys, he was able to get a double-double. And, you know, he hasn't really been hot shooting the 3-ball recently. And maybe he has a good night shooting the 3-ball against a good matchup for him. So I don't mind him. I think we can get to some of those pieces. And it is worth calling out Patrick Williams, guys, had a pretty good game in his last game as well. 23 minutes in that game. I don't mind the idea of getting to him a little bit. If he gets 20 plus minutes, he is pretty appealing. So not a bad value. There are, like, the issue with Chicago is, like, we don't know exactly who to play, but they're all a little bit too cheap given the upside that they have. And so I really don't mind chasing that. For Brooklyn, I don't necessarily love any of the pieces, although, like, MPJ is somewhat appealing and you know, a good matchup for him. Cam Thomas, I don't think we need to get to him, given the fact that he's still on a minutes limit. Nick Claxton, yeah, again, he's probably properly priced. The Nets are more difficult to get to. And so we look at it, guys, like maybe Mann is a little bit in play. Danny Wolf maybe a little bit in play. Like, they're all okay. But if we're, like, chasing some lower price plays that also hold upside, like, I think we'd rather do the Chicago players rather than the Brooklyn Nets players. And then we look at the last game, Toronto versus the Clippers, guys, a very low scoring game, 215. We do not like that. A lot of players that are questionable for Toronto, so it is tough to kind of break it down. We know that Walter, Pirtle, and RJ Barrett are all out. If Sandro were to sit, which he's probably playing, if Quickly were to sit, which he's probably playing, then that makes the slate more difficult. But if Sandro sits, we're looking at Colin Murray Bowles. If Quickly sits, we're looking at Scotty Barnes to be a good click. We're looking at Ingram to be a good click. It's tough here. And I actually like Jamal Sheed a decent amount for Toronto. And if we look at it, guys, the data somewhat agrees with that, although he is priced up as well. So that is also more difficult. And so, again, if Sandro sits, we're looking at Kyle Murray Bowles. I don't hate that. Grady Dick, maybe we could get to him a little bit, priced at 4.4, but that's the issue. It is a very tight slate for a 4-game slate. And then we jump on into the Clippers. The Clippers, Zubac is kind of a decent value. If you want to get to a little bit of Kawhi and Harden, you can. They're priced up a little bit too much, though, for me. So, again, very tight slate. It's a very interesting slate for Friday. And so let's try to go ahead and close out this build. We have 7.7 left over. And I'm okay getting to Brandon Ingram, guys. I feel like he's a little bit too cheap, even though it's a low game total. If Quickly sits, he ends up being a better click. But again, that is definitely a concern that Quickly could potentially play. And then here, guys, 7.6 left over. We're kind of in a dead range here. And so I don't necessarily love that. So maybe we don't get to Ingram. Let's see, forward-wise, who is the play that we can get to most confidently? I would probably say it would be Porter. I don't hate Siakam as well. You know, I don't mind stacking that game. Maybe that's a piece that we get to instead. Colin Murray Bowles has been pretty hot recently. Maybe we just chase that. Hope that Sandro sits. Again, he's only questionable, guys. It's an illness. I kind of expect him to play. And then Donovan Mitchell, he actually doesn't benefit that much with all those players off the court for Cleveland, but he should have a decent floor still. So we can get to that. That's okay. It's an okay build, right? Again, with Yusuf, we're kind of saying it's going to be him instead of Queen. Obviously, we would remake this build with Queen in one of them, and then maybe we would get off of Mitchell. A little bit slate dependent, new slate dependent here with Colin Murray Bowles as well. And then let's just take a peek at some of the lineups that were made from the 9 to 5 lineup builder, guys. The top build right now, Trey Jones, Donovan Mitchell, Walker. The data always likes Walker for some reason. He has been like too cheap, giving out Vegas like values him each day. So I don't know. He's interesting. Paul George, Colin Murray Bowles, Brandon Ingram, Jalen Tyson. I do like Jalen Tyson and Sheed. This is very interesting. What's also very interesting is how different the second build is. Like we're getting to a lot of different plays there. So it is a pretty wide open slate, as I have mentioned several times. But guys, that's going to do it for this video. I wish I could give you guys a little bit more conviction. Be like, oh, this value is clearly a great play, but that's just not the slate, and I'm not going to force it for you guys. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Appreciate you being here. Good luck with all of your lineups, and as always, let's keep cashing.